to 10 men and divert the water. Many, many hours later, almost dark, I noticed a wide ditch had been dug and a lot of water was successfully being diverted. I also noticed hundreds of yards away, almost as far as I could see, that same lieutenant and his crew were still digging. When I ran down to him and told him he could stop, his visibly exhausted crew was thankful. But I knew in front of me lay the foundation of how this country was going to rise to fight the terrorists. I have no doubt to this day those men would have kept lifting those shovels until they couldn't have done so anymore. This leads me to the second principle I live by, and that is to not falter in our fight. The cold, hard reality of today is that we live in a world where there are many enemies who want to attack us again, here, in our homeland, in our communities. There are thousands of such people who have been trained and who are training now to once again bring their violent extremist views to bear upon us. Over the past year alone, we have seen them try and fail in this country, like Abu Muttalib, who tried to bring down a plane on Christmas Day over Michigan, or Abdul Azazi, who plotted to bomb the mass transit system in New York City. These events are crystal clear. This country will continue to be a target of those who believe they have a duty to kill Americans. But America has stood strong against this threat. Working with our military and law enforcement partners around the world, we have weakened Al-Qaeda as it existed in 2001. We have captured and killed many Al-Qaeda leaders and operatives. By pulling out the fabric of Al-Qaeda's top leadership, we have seen the fabric of their organization begin to fray. We have shattered their hierarchy and eliminated their training camps. We have frozen their finances and disrupted their communications. We have uncovered their cells and prevented attacks here and abroad. We have hurt them badly. The FBI, along with such departments as the Anne Arundel County Police Department, have joined forces and worked every day, every night, every holiday, every weekend, every minute to run down even the most mundane hint of terrorist activity that might be brewing. Despite our successes, Al-Qaeda and its offshoots continue to plot and plan. Instead of training camps, we have seen a rise in websites that promote violent jihad and give step-by-step instructions on how to build suicide vests and improvised explosives. Instead of receiving funding from Al-Qaeda, terrorists are now committing crime to raise money for their operations. And instead of hand-picked teams who before had received training, funding, and direction from Al-Qaeda, we have seen self-starting, self-radicalizing, self-financing cells spring up in our very communities here. It is difficult to measure progress in the war against terror. We cannot post a profit. We cannot quantify freedoms protected and lives saved. We cannot measure the absence of damage, other than saying none of our cities were attacked, none of our citizens were harmed, and none of our security was penetrated this day. We in the FBI, with our police partners, measure success one day at a time, but we are always looking out over the horizon. This forward-looking view is not new to this country. In fact, one of our greatest founders of democracy in this country, Thomas Jefferson, said, "The price of freedom is eternal vigilance." We must not back down in our fight to stop them. While we can never trade the ideals of democracy that our founding fathers embodied in our Constitution, that of equality and fairness under the law, we must recognize that in order to remain vigilant and be ready to swiftly counter the threat, we as a society must be willing to sacrifice some of our freedoms. These type of trade-offs deserve debate and discussion at the highest levels. We at the FBI spend a considerable amount of time weighing our tactics against civil liberties, for we have as much responsibility of preserving those rights as stopping the next terrorist attack. But no matter where those discussions lead, we all must remember that our adversaries are still out there and they are still dangerous. But their desire to harm our citizens is no match for our desire to protect our citizens. Their determination to destroy our freedoms is no match for our determination to defend those very same freedoms. The third principle I would like to talk about is that we can never lose sight of what we are fighting for. I spoke earlier about the right of every American to live a life free of fear and intimidation. Indeed, one of the FBI's primary missions is to ensure our citizens are not denied equal opportunity to our basic rights of speech, religion, and access to government services. We must never lose sight of the fact that this country, with most of the rest of this world, is at war against violent extremism. At no point does fighting terrorists equate to fighting religious or political ideals. This is a country that was founded on tolerance and inclusion. If we give up those ideals, the terrorists have won. The war on terror will not end in a single decisive battle. It may persist for generations, and we may have setbacks along the way. It will demand more than technology and intelligence and organizational change. It will demand the continued resolve of the American people. Terrorists are not the type of people to pursue another line of work. We cannot afford to become complacent as we mark another anniversary. We at the FBI, in lockstep with our partners such as Chief Tier, must recommit ourselves to be more vigilant, not less. Collectively, we will do our best to hold the threats at bay. You see, we owe this to those first responders who made their last response 9 years ago. It is a fact that the Twin Towers at the World Trade Center fell to the ground 9 years ago. But today, they have arisen again in spots like this all across this great country. The metal within the tower beams did bend and yield when those planes struck, but they did not break. They are here today in front of us, stronger than ever before, unyielding in the face of continued threats. And I pledge to you, this country will never let them fall again. We will never yield to terror.
Thank you, Agent McFeely. Mr. Leopold has an executive citation he'd like to present.
Thank you for your excellent talk.
As we prepare to close today's ceremonies and reflect on the message shared by this and all the 9/11 memorials across this great country, we shall never forget. Please join me in a moment of silence in memory of all those who paid the ultimate sacrifice 9 years ago today.
Detail, attend!